So, hello everybody. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon at this wonderful time of the day. I welcome you very much. My name is Peter Brook. I'm the chairman of the World Summit Awards. And I just wanted to say thank you very much also to the WSIS team for putting all of this on. The World Summit Awards has been created as part of the Austrian initiative of the World Summit on Information Society, of which the WSIS Forum is the yearly part. It started in 2003 with the World Summit Award Conference in a global conference in Geneva, and in 2005 with the second part in Tunis. And the focus actually of the World Summit Award at that time was to look at content, and specifically at content in terms of making the transformation from the information society into a true knowledge society possible. If you put yourself into this framework of 2000, 2002, 2003, at that time, the accessibility issue was mainly also an issue regarding how far do you have to walk to get to the next telephone booth? In Africa, 3 days. Okay, so you have basically not the mobile revolution. You had not actually that you have a computer in your palm and that you are globally connected in videos and in smart applications all around the world. The focus of the World Summit Award from 2003 to 2005 has steadily been on what is the importance of content in those different kind of technological change, economic changes, social changes. And here we come to this very important part of how to link up the goals of WSIS with the goals of also the sustainability development goals of the United Nations. Because the sustainability goals are the first time that the global community has agreed on standards by which we can measure our progress and the changes in our societies. And here, the standards and also the access issues are embedded in a global understanding, a covenant regarding that the global community wants to reach by 2030 clear targets, goals, and that the progress towards them can be measured. We have learned over the last 2 or 3 years that the pandemic is derailing much of what we are doing, not all, but a lot, and that we need to focus and also strengthen our efforts. We have learned over the last 2 or 3 weeks that a war, an aggressive war, is also something which can derail us because it will affect the global economy. And if you just think about the repercussions on Africa in terms of food availability, if 2 countries, which are basically the food basket for many of those countries, from Egypt all the way to Nigeria, from Angola all the way to Mozambique, then you can imagine what the impact is. And I'm not talking about the impact in other parts of the world. So what are we looking at in terms of the World Summit Awards? We're looking at how digital technologies can be used under normal circumstances to advance both the goals of WSIS towards a knowledge society and also to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We have 8 categories, and today we have winners from 3 of the categories. On the category of health and well-being from 2018 with Girlythings from Pakistan, with Bonocle from Qatar in 2020 in inclusion and empowerment, and this year with the project 6BUF from Austria in the category of learning and education. And you see here, there's a real richness of content-driven applications trying to address different aspects of the accessibility paradigm. So what do we want to do? We want to learn from each other. We want to listen to each other, and we want to learn and understand of how we can better narrow the accessibility gaps. We have a global congress coming up in March 22nd to 24th, where you can see and experience more of WSA, and I want to invite you to do that. It's an online global congress, which is a unique learning journey through WSA's universe of rich best practices. Meet with interesting people, producers, designers, and developers, and also share your insight and experiences. When we look at now how we want to structure our conversation for the next 50 minutes, my suggestion is that I will ask each of the 5 speakers to our workshop to first look at what are you, and tell us what are you currently working on. Secondly, what's your accessibility project? Just describe what it is. And then let's talk about impact. What's the impact? We have 5 minutes to do so. And I want to start with Torquato, who is from Brazil and who has been with WSA now for, I think, for 20 years. That's right.
Yes, Peter. Thank you very much for the invitation. Hello, everybody. Great pleasure to be here. Yes, Peter, 20 years. Thank you very much. You know that how much I admire you personally and, everything that you do. You're a great, mover of ideas, souls, hearts. And, that really inspires me. You know that you're a great inspiration for me. Regarding accessibility, you know that I learned about accessibility, digital accessibility, in Brijuni, Croatia. A couple of days before, I had, I jumped from the pier, with a bad move and broke my neck and became quadriplegic. So from them on, I mean, I started learning the hard way what accessibility is. And of course, I mean, there's no way to be a person with disability and not become a militant of the cause as well. So I've been working in this last 15 years, dedicating myself to the improvement of conditions of persons with disability in Brazil. And, I've been championing for accessibility for all. We have in the world over 1 billion persons with disabilities, and accessibility is a key issue. Although, it's very little discussed, at least in Brazil. I mean, it's not in the agenda. And, uh, I want to put it back in the agenda by proposing that we create the 18th Sustainable Development Goal, which would be accessibility for all. I have an image that can be shown later on, where I create the 18th Sustainable Development Goal, which is accessibility for all. So this is my major proposition. Just to give you a little picture about what I've been doing the last 15 years or the last 20 years when we met. Now, I've been working with technology, I spent 8 years after I broke my neck working for the state of São Paulo. We have here the Secretariat for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I was I was in this secretariat from the beginning. And then the last 4 years, I worked as secretary for persons with disabilities in the city of São Paulo. Remembering that São Paulo is one of the 5 largest capitals in the world. So, it's a very demanding task. And when I left in at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, I was hired by a company that deals with Brazilian Sign Language. We deliver Brazilian Sign Language with video calls. I can, I can talk about it later on a little bit more. But I've been, I'm championing again for the rights of deaf people, to be part of society, to be included, and to communicate with everybody. So again, pleasure to be here and talk a little later, a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is lovely, Sid, that you are joining us. The Brioni was a WSA grand jury conference, so it is an unlucky accident which happened, and you entered into accessibility issues in a very personal way through WSA. I think it's very, very interesting what you're saying regarding working with a Brazilian sign language and also with a video company, a video call company. I think we will want to hear more about this. I'm sure that Nadine is really excited about learning about this regarding what is the possibilities here. We move from here and look at accessibility from a very different point of view, not from the political point of view or from the structural point of view, but from a very personal point of view. And Tanzila, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and also about Girlythings, and also the bravery which you have in the kind of environment in which you are? Because one of the things which is interesting about Sid is because Sid is, while he says that accessibility is not an issue on the Brazilian agenda, think about that they have a state secretariat for the rights of persons with disability, and that you cannot build a building in Sao Paulo unless the disability code is checked off on everything in terms of physical disability, visual disability, and things like this. So it's very advanced in many ways. But you are coming from Pakistan. Tell us a little bit about your work, your life, your project, and the impact, please.
Thank you so much, Peter, and thank you, Sid, for sharing about your work. I look forward to know more about your work, and really excited to connect with you. And about Pakistan, we have ratified the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, but the challenges of implementing that convention and trickling it down to the level of the beneficiaries remains a challenge. My work comes into being pretty much when I was born. I was born with a deformity in my both lower limbs, and I was lucky to be born into a family that supported education, and I got a chance to get education, and I highly give credit to education for opening up my mind and making me believe that I could still contribute and not become just a redundant part of the society. But the challenges are there, and the room for development is also there. My entrepreneurial journey started with Girlythings, and Girlythings is also one of the WSA winners and one of our most cherished projects. It is about creating accessibility for menstrual health care. And it all started when I thought that I was empowered enough to move around. I would have a great career as a public speaker, moving from one country to the other, hopping from one city to the other in Pakistan, trying to create that narrative of accessibility and confidence. But then when the menstrual cycle started, it just took me back to the basics that as a woman, as a menstruator, the most basic idea of the monthly cycles, the needs are not being met. And my disability actually inspired me to understand that even menstruators who have all physical abilities in place are still not able to access healthcare, menstrual health care in particular, for their monthly needs. And that's when Girlythings happened to be. And in 3 years, we were able to develop a network of delivering these sanitary products to menstruators across Pakistan. Currently, we are working on a web tool by the name Girlythings Party. We were able to raise some money. And what the tool will do, it will be powered with artificial intelligence, and we hope to integrate sign language as well. Last year, when I was in Pakistan, I was trying to map out different institutes that cater to children with learning disabilities. And I thought it was time that they're educated about the menstrual cycle early on before they start. So that is happening on the technology end. At the same time, we're also looking forward to start our own product this year, a product that caters to menstruators with a disability. Because unfortunately, big companies out there, they're not really calculating or they're not really acknowledging menstruators with a disability when they're designing their products. So hopefully we would inspire them by launching our own product that caters to this community, because we are buyers. At the end of the day, we are a market itself. We're not always at the end of the receiver of charity. That's something that I always try to push forward. And this year, I'm also excited to start a new venture just called A Town. It's a board game that talks about learning about making buildings more accessible. And it's inspired from Monopoly because I grew up playing games, and I think the majority of my leadership that I learned, since I could not play football or I could not play cricket, that was pretty much part of my childhood, and my cousins would play. I would call them back to the table and start playing Ludo or cards. And I think that's when I learned that, you know what, I also have some leadership streak. I took that inspiration and developed this board game. So hopefully that is going to come out, and maybe we'll compete for WSA again with a new project. So that could happen. And on a more personal end, I'm currently in Europe and I'm pursuing a master's degree in entrepreneurship, because it was time to take all these case studies and bring them to a more global front. And I'm also traveling across Europe these days, and I'm writing a book documenting my travel experiences. Living in Pakistan, when I had never traveled, I always thought Europe would be the heaven of accessibility. But it turns out it's heaven and hell. Heaven because I set off on my journey totally by myself, thinking that I will conquer the day, but then something happens and I'm always going into the wrong directions looking for a ramp. They're there, but I still have to look for them. So just documenting these stories just to inspire leaders to have better planners, better architects, better systems in place on the grassroots level, rather than fixing a building later on after hearing our pleas. It's better to just design this thing so epically that you don't need to fix it, and it caters to everybody with different abilities. At the same time, our work is also in terms of sensitizing the community. So we do a workshop called Theater of Taboo. I've been a theater person myself. I love to organize communities. I love to organize different plays together, because I think theater really has the power to make you feel the pain of somebody by putting you in the shoes of that somebody. So there's a thing we do, it's called forum theater, that I got trained for back in, I think, 2014. That was a long time ago. But now we do a workshop called Theater of Taboo, and we get a group of people and we give them different role plays, and we make them experience disability in a creative and fun way, just to, change their idea of disability, that they're not always people who require help. Sometimes they are very important part of the community. They are leaders. They could be anything they want. They have their own careers and they play a role. So it's not a goodwill gesture to create accessibility. It is a fundamental um, point. It's a fundamental right that has to be gated. So these are some of the initiatives that we are currently working on, and hopefully this year, by the end, we will have some amazing results. Prior to all of this, since I was a public speaker, so my impact throughout the country was that going around delivering a talk that was not about motivation, but more about taking up challenges of accessibility and training young leaders to take their own initiatives has been amazing. And once I go back to Pakistan, I hope to continue my work there.
Thank you very much. You're an excellent public speaker, and you will be even better if you keep it short.
Oh, yes, and I'm done. Check that out. I'm done.
Thank you very much. Tanzila, you are incredible because you enlarge the discourse of accessibility from the points which Sid was mentioning regarding rules and policies to the issue of cultural taboos, and also the necessity to look at a narrative of accessibility, and also to address issues which are usually kept very much undercover, like, for instance, menstrual health care. There are very few people in very few places around the world who can openly and also empathetically talk about this and make this an issue of really making a change, because this is on the most intimate and personal level. Well, what the city is talking about is very much on the state and the government level. Okay? So that is very, very important. I think it's great. We moved from you, who were originally in Pakistan, to Ramy, who was originally in Qatar. And he was so lovely to get up early in the morning in California. But you look bright and bushy-eyed. Ramy, tell us,
Thank you.
what are you currently working on? What's the accessibility project? And what is the impact? Take 5 minutes, please.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter. My name is Ramy Soliman. I'm originally from Egypt, living in Doha, Qatar, and I'm the co-founder of a company called Bonocle. At Bonocle, we work on a Braille entertainment platform for blind people, and we allow them to get Braille access to applications on their smartphones or tablets. And we built these applications ourselves, and they're under 3 different categories. So we have applications in education, where they can learn Braille, they can practice spelling. We have games as well, where we're not only creating like card games and board games, but we're also working on games where they control like a robotic guide dog and fight aliens, or they can fly through checkpoints, or they can get through an obstacle course. And lastly, our productivity apps provide applications that really benefit from our 2D navigation feature. And it allows our users to measure things, navigate Excel sheets, or they can read even entire books. We started Bonocle back in university when my co-founder broke his hand, and he had to join the special needs center in order to get support writing his exams and everything. And being friends, we just spent a lot of time at the center, and we started talking to a few blind students that used to go to the center. And it was our first time interacting with a blind person. And 2 things shocked us with this experience. The first was, in our 21-year-old lives, we had never interacted with a blind person. Where were they? Like, why weren't they in our classrooms? Why weren't they in regular workplaces? And the second thing was, while we complained about how much studying we had to do, their complaints were how hard it was for them to get access to their study material. And being engineers by training, our instinct is to always solve problems. So this was definitely a deserving problem, and we've been working on Bonocle ever since. Where we see our impact is definitely in bringing back Braille, kind of like putting a new kind of life back into Braille accessibility. We want to provide, students, for example, trying to learn Braille with an incentive to help them get access to Braille, not just to read simple content, but they can also use it to play games. They can use it to get different kind of access to different applications that they can use on a daily basis. That's just a very short brief about who I am and what we do at Bonocle.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. I think that what you said is very, very critical to our entire endeavor. And that is, you talked about for 20 years in your life, you have never met a blind person. So it's that invisibility of, for instance, disabilities. And that, to change that and to make it visible, and to make it visible in such a way that everybody knows that everyone benefits if we live in an inclusive society, that is something which is really critical, because our humanity depends on the inclusivity. And that is a wonderful transition to Nadine. Nadine is a trainer. She works with Equilicent. And Nadine, you have 10 minutes because you need translation for telling your story, or 7 minutes, please. You need some time. Take your time, Nadine, please.
Teaching young people and young adults. And I've seen very often there's no accessibility for young people with regard to sexual education. There was no documents, no accessible way of deaf young people to get educated in this area with regard to rights, media, signs, and sign language. Because sign language is the mother tongue of deaf people, but there was no information, no material. So we were thinking, okay, if there's young people and they have to go to the doctors, for example, so they can only learn from books. And the texts are very often extremely complicated, very technical. Conversation at doctors is often with interpreters, but the whole situation is not really positive for both parties. It's always a bit complicated. This is why we thought, okay, we have to develop an accessible product for deaf young people and deaf adults, and to give them information via tablets, via mobile phones, through apps, or on the website. So you can access this information through different media. There's no taboos. There's nothing you have to be ashamed of. You can just access and you can get all the information you need, and 100% accessible for deaf people in sign language. And we are very happy that we were able to implement this project, to develop this project. There was a lot of exchange to specific topics. We invited a lot of experienced experts. We had a few meetings. There were many questions we had to deal with. Also many questions with regard to taboos and shame, where people didn't have the background knowledge. Is this allowed? Is this forbidden? You know, the young people that didn't know, or also information with regard to sexually transmittable diseases. The young people that didn't have much information. There was also big differences between the generations with regard to knowledge. Also pregnancy, how does pregnancy develop? What are the different phases? Also questions with regard to self-awareness, with regard to their body of these people, of the young deaf people. And we were really pleased to implement this project, especially here in Austria. And I hope that this will inspire people in other countries in the world, and that they will get inspired to also develop a similar project. And we will be very happy to support everybody who is interested in implementing a similar project.
Thank you very much, Nadine. This is wonderful. You have expanded the issue which we looked at before with Ramy, again to this issue of that the invisibility is also supported and anchored in shame and in cultural taboos. And that the question is very much in terms of accessibility to open up as a society, to open up as persons in our interrelationships, and to open up globally also to learn from each other's practices of how to overcome this. And I think this is a very interesting way that accessibility for all as an 18th SDG has very much, like what Sid was talking about at the beginning, has very much to do with creating openness in society for the diversity of people. And that is also part of what Wilfried Kantz is working on, because he's working on something called the Zero Project. And Wilfried, why don't you tell us a little bit about your work and the project and also the impact of it? Please, Wilfried.
Thank you much. Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you for the invitation. So it's a Zero Project. What does it stand for? Zero stands for Zero Barrier. It's an initiative from a private foundation, from the Essel family. It's based in Vienna. And the Zero Project finds and shares solutions that improve the daily lives and legal rights of all persons with disabilities. So how do we do this? We do research along the four main topics of the convention. As you know, there's the convention, UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability from 2005. And there are four main topics. The four topics are education, employment, accessibility, and independent living and political participation. And recently we have added a fifth category, which we get nominations from each year, which is ICT, Information and Communication Technology, because this is a very dynamic field, and just what Ramy was explaining, it's just mind-boggling what's happening out there in orientation system, in supportive technology, in assistive technology. And so we thought it's a good idea to include in each call of the four topics also information and communication technology. And each year we take one of the topics. We just concluded accessibility. Thanks to WSA and thanks to Nora and Cordia, we use the same nomination platform. And usually we get between 400 and 500 nominations. And then working with the crowd intelligence of roughly 6,000 people, we can trickle it down to about 70 or 80 MODs, which we then invite for a 3 days conference. We took the risk this year after virtual conference in 2021 to have a hybrid conference this year. And well, instead of the 800 guests physically from almost 100 countries, what we had before the pandemic, we had roughly 400 at the UN in Vienna. And we could stream the conference from 3 different locations. And what really made us proud is that we had more than 10,000 viewers on YouTube, which is quite good for a topic which unfortunately doesn't find almost no media interest in. This is really almost sidelined by society. So this is why we're so grateful to bring it up, because it's definitely not only one of the sustainable development goals, but as Peter, as you said, it's really an inclusive society is what we have to aim for. And the Zero Project tries to facilitate this, to show the innovation which are out there, because we think that there's a lot of good things connected, but there is a common platform is missing, and this is why we want to bring persons together. This is why we want to be this platform of exchange for innovation, and it seems that people are really appreciate. There's a lot of good things coming out there, because I think an important factor is when it comes to innovation, that we don't invent the wheels for the umpteenth time. I think there's fantastic things out there. Let's get connected. Let's not invent the orientation system number 125, but let's see how we can really bring different things together. And this is what we work for and we aim for. Of course, the whole research is for free. We have prints as the fact sheet of each of the innovations for each year. And we just invested into a CRM. So we have an electronic database where you can do a search on different topics, on regions, on more than 120 criteria, in order to get access to these topics, to get access to solutions which are already out there. And we would encourage you to just check out the web page, engage with us, because we think it's really highly beneficial to put movers and shakers, as we have on this panel, together in order to gain time, in order to improve the lives of persons with disabilities.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kainz, for this presentation, and for everybody who is in the call. I mean, WSA is a global leader in terms of how to find out best practices, and also how to have a very transparent and open jury process. And thank you also, Wilfried, that you and the ESLA Foundation use our software and our tools to do that, and also to have a very good professional practice on this. I think that when we have another 15 minutes to talk. I think we should talk about the various different points of view, very much action-oriented. And I see basically now 3 areas of action. One is the proposal and the suggestion from Sid to look at the 18th SDG, accessibility for all. and how to follow up on this. The second one has very much to do with what do we need to do with breaking cultural taboos and create more visibility. That's the second issue. And the third action issue, which I think is very important, is the issue which you, Wilfried, has now looked at in terms of how to not to repeat and reinvent everything which has been already done, but to build on it. In WSA, we have a term for this because how WSA works as a global community in 184 countries is basically what we call social franchising. Okay, so maybe we can follow up on this. And I work very much on data and big data and data intelligence and AI and artificial intelligence and things like this. So one of the things which we look there is also what are licensing agreements in order to advance this. So maybe we can talk and with the Isla Foundation later on and with offline on this. But basically for us now in this workshop, which is part of the business forum, we can basically possibly look at this as results. And I would ask Katharina Weber, who has helped so much in setting this up together with Nora Woloch, to basically take these points down. And then I will follow up as a result of our workshop so that you know that it's not just 35 people sitting here global and online together, but there's a clear outcome and an output. Can I just have anybody wishing to talk on this, raise your hand? So 3 issues. One is accessibility for all, how to open up society, break cultural taboos, create more visibility. And thirdly, how to create a better learning space so that we are not repeating this. I can see that the first person to speak is Tanzila, then it's Sid, and then it's Ramy. Please, Tanzila, please.
I think these 3 points are very much valid and timely needed. I'd like to comment on the second point, that is breaking cultural taboos. Since we've been involved in certain projects, one particular thing that I have really been proposing is about PR that should make sure that all the campaigns and media-related projects that are happening should also have the subject of inclusion, especially for people with disabilities as well. And this inspiration came from one of our own project, which was called Fruit Chart. It was a comedy film on disability that was very well received in Pakistan. And based on that impact, we're also trying to reach out to many fashion brands and many media platforms, OTT platforms, to start the conversation of disability in a more empowered fashion and not in a charitable way. So this is one direction that we're taking because media is very, very powerful. And the pandemic has taught us the power of OTT platforms. So this would be one direction that I would like to propose.
Thank you very much, Tanzila. I think that's very good. I'll put you down as basically a group, let's say a knowledge leader, initiative leader on the second point. That's very helpful. And I think that we need to see how we can also make us this from these action points which are relevant to the visits and to the UNESCO and ITU. Sid, please.
I would like to congratulate my colleagues here, the speakers. And actually, I would like to make contact with all of you after this seminar. You know, we have a lot to share with everyone. I'd like very much what Wilfried said about Project Zero. You know, count on me in Brazil to forward this with the countries that speak Portuguese. Well, this is the picture of the sustainable goals with the 18th goal, which would be accessibility for all. You know, if you mention it to people involved in the process, they'll say, no, accessibility is in the between the lines of a couple of goals, but it's not enough, as I said. The lack of accessibility impacts over 1 billion people in the world, especially in the poorest countries, in developing countries. You know, the impact is terrible. You don't see in many cases persons with disabilities, in everyday life, because they're hidden in their places. They can't get out of their houses because of the lack of accessible transportation and other facilities. So, I mean, it's a key issue. There will not be, the world will not be sustainable if it's not accessible before. So, uh, let's let's join this idea of creating the 18th goal and really put accessibility in the global agenda. Peter, things related to persons with disabilities somehow are always hidden. People don't like to talk about it. I don't know why. I mean, I haven't figured it out in these 15 years that I've been, dealing with it. So, this is the way, this is my proposition to really advance the cause of accessibility in the world.
Thank you very much, Sid. This is great. When people say, yes, accessibility is in between the lines of the 17 goals, they tell you, don't worry, you will be kept hidden.
And besides, Peter, sorry, besides, in terms of design, 17 goals, so it doesn't even look right. I mean, there's a slot, there's an open slot there for the 18th goal. So
it was left for the people with disabilities. Okay, we will
that's right.
Out of aesthetic reasons, we need 18. Good.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Sid. I think you made your point. I think we know that this is a challenge, but we will have results from this workshop, and I will be very, very strong together with Nora and the team to follow up together with you on this. Ramy, please.
Thank you so much, Peter. I mean, I don't really have much to say after what everybody else has shared. I think they've shared very important points that we kind of need to work on. I just wanted to mention that something Wilfried mentioned, which is that accessibility doesn't get the strong media presence. It doesn't get the strong following as other topics. And actually, I'm currently in a conference handling accessibility for blind and deaf people. And we're getting the feedback from people that maybe we need to change the type of stories that we tell. And this is something that we also have might have been doing wrong so far with our company. But I definitely think that the best way to not only tell accessible stories and get people to be aware of accessibility issues is by connecting to the community themselves. For example, working with blind people, the kind of stories we hear from them are the ones that we later on share with people to get them to understand the perspective of accessibility from the community themselves. We've been engaging with blind people since we graduated from university. We started with something that actually did not work. A solution like the first solution we created wasn't actually very helpful, and we kept on iterating and changing based on their feedback, based on the support that they gave us, without really asking for anything in return. So I definitely think part of what we have to do and the actions we have to take is maybe modify our stories. Something that also Tanzila mentioned is they've created a comedy movie about disability, which I think I will definitely try to check that out. I think that would be an amazing movie to watch. And I think we definitely need to take more initiatives in that direction.
Thank you very much, Ramy. I think what you are looking at is very much also what Nadine was looking at in terms of having, the discursive struggles, and the narrative you need to build, when she was talking about six-path, I mean, it's just much as on the issue of menstrual health, these are key issues where a personalized story needs to be shared. And we need to look at interesting cultural forms. Okay, so it's not good just to berate people, but we need to make it interesting, entertaining, a learning experience, an exploratory experience, an investigative experience, an experience of a story of curiosity, and not a story of closure. And I think that's something very important. Thank you very much, Ramy, for doing this, and also reporting back to us on your conference where you are at the moment. Wilfried, we have another 6 minutes to go. Please, if you want to be short in 2 or 3 minutes.
Definitely. Well, there are three things. First of all, thank you for the proposal of social franchising. More than happy and interested to follow up. The second, I totally agree on the visibility and on the storytelling. I mean, if you look into social media, how we all work, I think there's fantastic stories out there, and really let's make an effort to bring this into media. Talking about theater and visibility, the last thing I remember the disability topic came is a play called Children of a Lesser God, and I think this is like 25 years ago. So I mean, there's definitely a call for action. And I'm always an optimist, and I see the glass half full, and just having this call makes me happy. I mean, there's fantastic captions, there is sign language, live sign language interpretation. This has not been a standard 2 years ago. It's now, and now it is, and so I think we're looking for a bright future, and let's take our efforts together to make it happen.
Thank you very much, Wilfried. So I want to give the last word for another 3 minutes to Nadine. Nadine, please.
So I'm really moved, and it's great, all the different stories and aspects and views that we got here. And this is not only relevant for our society, for the people with disabilities, but for the society in general. For me, it's very impressive, this diversity we see here. Everybody is human, and we really have to be open. We have to fight for diversity, and we have to, stand up for our diversity and differences, and have to make society more open. And I think shame has to disappear. We, disabled, are humans. We also have our needs, and this is really important to show that to society. It is also very important that we get together here, and that we can exchange our ideas, and that we can work for a better and common future.
Okay, then I want to thank you very much, Nadine. That is wonderful that you gave us this as a closing statement. I will follow up with Nora and Katharina on the results of our conversation and our workshop. We will share with you the result page, and then we will take it forward to the business organization and make it part of the business forum, which takes place in May. I will also make sure that we have an action line on all the 3 points, and that we will come back to you, Sita, regarding the accessibility for all issues regarding the SDGs. I will come back to you, Tanzila and Ramy, also, and Nadine, on the issue of creating visibility and cultural taboos. And I will work with you, Wilfried and Nora, regarding the social franchising and the question of how we can ensure that we will share things better, so that we don't repeat the invention of things which have been done already before. And WSIS has a very, very rich database on accessibility solutions already over the last 20 years, so we can possibly really collaborate on this. I want to thank you very much. I want to thank also the WSA team, Nora and Katharina, who have been there, and also the WSIS team in Geneva. Thank you very much for bringing us all together. Please hold the final tape.